Hey, what's going on? Today's video is about gear, my relationship with gear, and I've got some tips on how to stop spending money and to start making things. To not get carried away with all of the things that I've purchased over these past couple of years, I'll try to keep it short. I've had two OG Minalogs, two monologues, the Prologue 8, I sold that. I got the Prologue 16, I sold that. A couple years later, I got a Prologue 16, a Drum Brute Impact. I had a Mini Brute 2, a Mini Brute 2S, the Matrix Brute, Polysix. I've had an MS-20, an APC 40. I sold that. I got another APC 40. The part that's most challenging about all of this is that the only thing I ever really needed was just a MIDI controller and a computer, and I probably would have made more and better music. Okay, for this tip, I'm gonna be using iOS devices, so I'll be using my iPad and my iPhone. However, you can do this similar type of thing with an Android device. This is the Korg Polysix, and this is the Polysix in the Korg Gadget app. This is the iPolysix, which is a standalone app from Korg. The standalone is 30 bucks. The Korg Gadget app is 40 bucks. It's a little expensive, but it's totally worth it, and I'm gonna show you that in a little bit. So we're gonna do a quick comparison. I have an old performance that I did on the hardware Polysix, and then I'm gonna recreate that performance, and I'm gonna do that on the iPhone, and we can just take a listen and see which one sounds better. In my opinion, I think that the iPad and the iPhone sound better, but if you like the sound of the hardware better, I still don't think that it's a $2,000 difference in the sound. But you know, you judge for yourself. Okay, and now the iPhone. Let's listen one more time. I prefer the iPhone. The hardware was super cool, but it was noisy. It had a really high noise floor, and it was very heavy, and I was scared I was gonna damage it every time that I was playing with it. However, the iPhone's just right in my pocket. I can also load up multiple Polysix, and I also have access to a bunch of other cool vintage synthesizers. I've got the Monopoly, the MS-20, an Oberheim OBXA, and the ARP Odyssey. You also have up to a 16-bar sequencer for each of these, and I can automate every knob, button, and slider on each of the synthesizers. Let's take a deeper look at the Korg Gadget app, see if we can make something cool with this Polysix sequence. All right, I brought the session over from the iPhone to the iPad because I have a little bit more real estate here. And I have that Polysix sequence, and I have a simple beat from this sampler here, Bilbao. Bilbao's cool. It's just a really basic sampler. You can pull in your samples from the Files app or from iCloud Drive if you have that set up. You can pull your samples down from the cloud. I just have that keeping time, and here's what we got. And I have an idea for a melody that I want to use in here. I'm going to set an initialize patch, and then we'll make something after I play in this part. I've got 4 bars set up here. I'm going to hit record, play. Cool. I'm going to open up the release on this here just a little bit, and I'm going to pull the cutoff on the frequency down just a little bit because it's a little harsh. Cool. On the second VCO, I'm going to add a 5th, so I'll move this up 7 semitones, and then we'll just sort of dial in the volume. Cool. And then on VCO 3, I'm going to change this to a square wave, and I'm going to go to a 5th, and then an octave higher, so 7 plus 12 is 19, and same thing. Great, I like that. I'm gonna add a bass with the MS-20, and I think I'm just gonna play that root note. Let's get an initialized patch. Same thing, we're gonna make this less harsh. And maybe an octave lower. Great. I'm gonna add the second oscillator, and then we'll just detune them a little bit to just see if we can get sort of a fatter sound. I'm gonna go to the patch bay, and I'm going to take the headphones out into the external signal processor and then run that out back into the external signal in. And then we can use this external signal processor on the left-hand side to just make something a little bit more aggressive. And to be honest, this sounds much better on the hardware, but it still sounds really good, and it doesn't sound $500 worth of a difference to my mind. I'm gonna solo this too so that we can hear what we're working with. I like that. And then I'd like to add something like an ARP. We'll grab this Oberheim initialized patch. I'm gonna make this large here. Pull down the frequency just a little bit. This is something that's really cool with all of the synthesizers in Korg Gadget. If you press this scale button on the left-hand side, you've got an option for an arpeggiator. I'm just gonna turn that on. It's got a bunch of different, like all the usual things that you would see on an ARP. I'm just gonna leave it at the default settings, and then we can tweak this afterwards. So. I'm gonna press this up and down arrow up at the top here so that it moves the synth out of the way. And I'd like this to be 8 bars instead of 4 bars so that I can automate the filter moving up. And to do that, we'll select function in the bottom left-hand corner, and then we'll press 8 here. And now we've got our 8 bars, but we need to copy all this stuff over here. I'm just gonna hit scale on, and this is sort of like Ableton's note fold. I'll hit function again, we're gonna hit copy, and then it allows you to then copy bar 1, paste on bar 5, bar 2, bar 6, bar 3, bar 7, and bar 4 on bar 8. Cool, function, and then that's it. Now we've got 8 bars of that. I'll start moving this frequency, and this will allow me to write in that automation. I'll press this up and down arrow here to move the synth out of the way. And if you take a look down at the very bottom here, you can see this line here. This is our automation lane. Also, on the left-hand side, if you look, you've got options to automate every single knob, button, and fader on here, which is just awesome. I'm gonna go back into the synth. I think that it might also sound sort of cool to open up the release just a little bit as it's getting closer to the end, so that the notes are less choked off. And we can just take a look at that as well. There's our automation going up. I think I want to do some automation on the Monopoly. We'll need to do our same trick here because I want this one to be 8 bars as well. So function in the bottom left-hand corner, press 8 up here at the top, function, copy, 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 7, 4. There's probably a more quick way to do this. It doesn't. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I think I'm gonna just sort of do that same sort of thing. I'm gonna open up the cutoff. Maybe we'll do the same with the amp envelope. Open up the release just a little bit here as it gets closer to the end. I don't think I need Bilbao anymore, so I'm going to hit function, delete, and we'll just get it out of there. And I'm gonna start trying to structure this out a little bit. If you're familiar with Ableton's session view, this is gonna be like pretty much the same thing. We'll hit function, and I'm gonna hit duplicate. I'll do it one more time, duplicate. Let's pull out the melody from the Monopoly and the ARP. So we just have the bass and the Polysix. Let's take a listen and just see what we got going on here. Okay, I think that this sounds pretty good. I'm gonna export this out and we'll get it over in Ableton. I'm just gonna hit this little paper button, export Ableton Live project. And you've got audio, MIDI, VST, and audio units. For this, I'm gonna export to audio and then I'll chop it up once we get into Ableton. We'll hit Files. Great, now that I've exported that, that's in the Files app on the iPhone or the iPad. I can now airdrop it to Ableton and then we'll take a look and see what it looks like over there. All right, we got everything over into Ableton. Let's take a listen real quick. I added some drum loops here. I have a Wavetable set up with a patch that I started creating. Try to come up with something. I'm gonna take all of the audio and I'm gonna change their warp to repitch, which means that whenever I change the tempo of the song, it will treat it sort of like a tape. And I think this is a great way whenever you're stuck with something, print all your shit to audio, set Ableton's warp to repitch, and then start messing around with the tempo, whether it's faster or slower, and see if something comes out that sounds a little bit more inspiring. So right now we're at 136 BPM, and I'm gonna take this probably down to 120, but we'll do it gradually and we'll see if something stands out that sounds cool to us. Maybe I can come up with a melody. Give me a moment, I'm gonna come up with a melody. Oh, brother. Let's clean up these notes here. All right, let's get it to fit in the mix a little bit. I'm gonna do auto filter. I'm gonna bring in the OBXD from Disco DSP. It's free. You don't need an OBX8. This is the one that you got. It's free. Okay. Maybe we'll do like a synthwave thing on the ups. Da 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 da. So let's print all this down. I also have this one knob that is a preset that's built into Ableton. It's a DJ one knob fade to gray, and it's so sick, it's just... How sick is that? Okay, I think this is a good place to stop. Hopefully you found it helpful. I just wanted to show that hardware isn't necessary for generating or completing release-ready tracks. And that isn't to say that if you like collecting hardware that you shouldn't do it. You should. I just wanted to show that you don't need the hardware and to exemplify with the software the order of magnitude that you get in terms of convenience by having all of this stuff right on your phone in your pocket. Bye.